continuation, chapter 1. This is the reading of the Player's Handbook 2024. Rhythm of Play. The three main pillars of D&D play are social interaction, exploration, and combat. Whichever one you're experiencing, the game unfolds according to these basic patterns. Number 1. The Dungeon Master describes the scene. The DM tells the players where the adventurers are and what's around them. How many doors lead to a room? What's on the table? And so on. Number 2. The players describe what the characters do. Typically, the players stick together as they travel through the dungeon and adventure environment to another environment. Sometimes different adventurers do different things. One adventurer might search a treasure chest, while a second examines mysterious symbols engraved on the wall, and a third keeps watch for monsters, because you never know. Outside the combat, the DM ensures that every character has a chance to act and describes how to resolve the activity in the combat, and the characters take turns. Number 3. The DM narrates the results of the adventure's actions. Sometimes resolving a task is easy. If an adventurer walks across a room and tries to open the door, the DM might say the door opens and describe what lies beyond. But the door might be locked. The floor might have a hidden trap, or other circumstances might make a challenge for the adventurer to complete the task. In this case, the DM might ask the player to roll a die to help determine what happens. Describing the results often leads to another decision point, which brings the game back to step 1. This pattern holds during every game session. Each time you sit down to play D&D, whether the adventurers are talking to a noble, exploring a ruin, or fighting a dragon. In certain situations, particularly combat, the action is more structured and everyone takes turns. Exceptions, because there's always exceptions, right? Exceptions supersede general rules. General rules govern that part of the game. For example, the combat rules tell you that melee attacks use strength and rage attacks use dexterity. There is a general rule, and the general rule is in effect as long as something in the game doesn't explicitly say otherwise. The game also includes elements, class features, feats, weapon components, spells, magic items, monster abilities, and the like, that sometimes conflict with the general rule. When the exception and the general rule disagree, the exception wins. For example, if a feature says that you can make a melee attack during your attack using your charisma, you can do so, even though the statement disagrees with the general rule. An ongoing game. Sometimes a session of D&D is a complete game in itself, often called a one-shot, where you play short adventures and last just one session. More often though, the D&D sessions are connected in a longer adventure and take several sessions to complete. The adventure can be strung together into a large narrative called a campaign. The campaign is like a TV series, while the adventure is like a session of the series. And the game session is like a little single episode. It might be self-contained, but it usually links with a larger plot, if there is one. Adventures. An adventure might be created by the dungeon master to purchased the examples of play in this chapter are inspired by the published adventure, Curse of Strahd. In other cases, an adventure features a fantastic setting, such as an underground dungeon, a wondrous wilderness, or a magic-filled city. It includes a cast of non-player characters controlled by the DM. Often one of the NPCs is a villain whose agenda drives much of the adventure's action. During an adventure, the adventurers explore the environments, events, and the creatures presented by the DM. Battles, traps, negotiations, mysteries, and more arise during the explorations. Adventures vary in length and complexity, and the short adventure might present only a few challenges and take only a few sessions to complete. A long adventure might involve many combats, interactions, and other challenges and take dozens of sessions. Campaigns. A campaign is a series of adventures with a consistent group of adventurers following the narrative. Some campaigns are episodic, where each adventure is its own tale and not much besides the player characters links it to the next one. Other campaigns involve long-running plots, a cast of recruiting NPCs, and themes that span multiple adventures, leading towards a climatic conclusion. As with adventures, a DM might create a campaign from scratch, assemble a campaign from published adventures, or mix homebrew material with published materials, and the campaign might take place in a world of the DM's creation or in a published campaign setting, such as the Forgotten Realms or Greyhawk. The later is described in the Dungeon Master Guide. Round down. Whenever you divide or multiply a number in the game, round down if you end up with the fraction, even if the fraction is 1/2 or greater. Some rules make exceptions to tell you to round up. We're moving on to page 9. Dice. Dice add randomness to the game. They help determine whether the characters and the monsters are successful at things they attempt. Dice negotiation. The dice used in D&D are referred to by the letter D, followed by the dice number of sides. So 4D, 6D. I'm saying this wrong. It says D4, D6, D8, D10, D12, and D20. Sorry about that. I am a bit dyslexic, I think. For instance, a D6 is a 6-sided die, the cube that many games use. The illustration die, the cube that the games use. The illustration of this page shows what each die looks like. When you need to roll dice, the rules tell you how many dice of the roll of a certain type, along with many numbers to add or subtract. For example, 3d8 plus 5 means you roll the 3d8 sided dice, add them two together, and add 5 to the total. Percentile dice. The rules sometimes refer to the D100. While such dice exist, the common way to roll the D100 uses a pair of 10-sided dice numbered from 0 to 9, known as the percentile dice. One die that you may designate before rolling gives the 10 digits, and the other gives the 1 digit. If you roll a 7 for the 10 digits and a 1 for the 1's digit, for example, the number rolled is 71. 2 zeros represent 100. Some 10-sided dice are numbered in the tens 0, 0, 10, 20, and so on, making it easier to distinguish the 10 digits from the 1 digits. In this case, to roll a 70 and a 1 is a 71, and a 0, 0, and 0, 0 is 100. D3. The same D notation appears in the expression 1D3, even though it's rare to find dice with only 3 sides. To simulate the rolling the D3, roll the D6 and divide the number by 2. Round up. See, there's a round up. X. What are dice for? I thought we just heard that. Okay. Here are the most common uses for the dice in D&D. D20 test. The 20-sided die D20 is the most important die you'll use in the game. It is central to the core mechanic called the D20 test. The game uses this to determine whether the creatures succeed or fail at things they attempt during the game. See D20 tests later in this chapter. You roll the D20 whenever your character tries to do something that the DM decides is a chance of both succeed and failure. The higher you roll, the more likely you will to succeed. Okay, there's a little box here interpreting die rolls in the story. Part of the fun of D&D is interpreting what the die roll means in the story. The randomness that the die brings often introduces the unexpected to expert fails or novice succeeds or any number of other twists. When the D20 test or another roll produces a surprise, the dungeon master often gives a fun description of what happened. If your player looks for opportunities to intercept your character's die roll and describe why things unfold unexpectedly or even humorously. Damage. For the most common use of the die in order of the D20s is to determine damage. When you use a successful attack roll, one kind of D20 test, you roll damage to see how effective the attack is. When you cast a spell, you might also roll damage. Different weapons and spells use different dice for damage. For example, a dagger uses 1d4, a great axe uses a 1d12, and the variable spell uses 8d6. Random tables. Occasionally, you'll see a table that uses the die roll to generate random results. On these tables, you see a die expression such as the D10 or the D100 in the header of the leftmost column. Roll that die and find the number you've rolled or the range containing that number in that column. Read across the row for the result. For example, the trinkets table on chapter 2 uses the D100. Percentile chances. Sometimes you might see a rule describing a percentile chance of something happening. For example, a rule might say there is a 5% chance of something happening. You may determine whether the thing happens by rolling percentile die, or if the roll is equal or less than the percentage chance, a 1 to 5. In this example, it happens. The 6 abilities. All creatures, characters, and monsters have 6 abilities that measure the physical and mental characteristics that show the ability descriptions table. Ability descriptions. You have the strength, that is your physical might. The dexterity is your agility, reflexes, and balance. Constitution is your health and stamina. Very important. Intelligence, reasoning, and the memory. Your wisdom is your perceptiveness, and the mental fortitude, your charisma, is your confidence, poise, and charm. Ability scores. Each score has a score from 1 to 20. Although some monsters have scores that are higher as 30. The score represents the magnitude of an ability. The ability scores table summarizes what the scores mean. Ability scores. See, I'm trying to write this backwards again. It says ability scores. Score 1, meaning this is the lowest score that can normally go. If an effect reduces the score to 0, that effect explains what happens. 2 to 9. This represents a weak capability. 10 to 11. This represents a human average. The 12 to 19. This represents the strong capability. 20. This is the highest of an inventor score can go unless the feature says otherwise. 30. This is the highest score you can go. Ability modifiers. Each ability has a modifier that you apply whenever you make a D20 test with your ability, explained in the test. An ability modifier is derived from its score, as shown in the ability modifiers tables. There are 2 tables here. One is in -5, 2 to 3 is -4, 4 to 5 is -3, 6 to 7 is -2, 8 to 9 is -1, 1 to 11 is +0, neutral. 12 to 13 is a +1, 14 to 15 is a +2. 16 to 17 is a +3, 18 to 19 is a +4, 20 to 21 is a +5, 22 to 23 is a +6. Oh, I might want to say something else. 24 to 25 is a +7, 26 to 27 is a +8, and 28 to 29 is a +9, and 30 is a +10. Oh, that's amazing. D20 tests. When the outcome of an action is uncertain, the game uses the D20 roll to determine success and failure. These rolls are called D20 tests, and they come in 3 kinds: ability checks, saving throws, and attack rolls. They follow these steps. Number 1, roll 1d20. You always want to roll high. If the roll is average or disadvantaged, described later in this chapter, you will roll 2 d20s, but you use the number only one of them. The one higher one if it is advantage, or the lower if it is disadvantage. Number 2, add modifiers. Add these modifiers to the number on the D20. Relevant ability modifiers. The chapter and the rules glossary explain which ability modifiers to use for various D20 tests. Your proficiency bonus, if relevant. Each creature has proficiency bonus, a number that is added when making the D20 test that uses something such as a skill in which the creature has a proficiency. See proficiency later in this chapter. Circumstantial bonuses and penalties. A class feature, a spell, or another rule might give a bonus or penalty to a die roll. Number 3, compare the total of the target number. If the total of the D20 and its modifiers equals or exceeds the target number on the D20 test, it succeeds. Otherwise, it fails. The Dungeon Master determines target numbers and tells the players whether their rolls are successful. The target number for ability check or saving throw is called the difficulty class, DC. The target number for an attack is called an armor class, AC, which appears on the character sheet in that stat block. See glossary rules. Ability checks. An ability check represents a creature using the talent and training to try to overcome a challenge, such as forcing open a stuck door or picking a lock, entertaining a crowd, or deciphering a cipher. The DM and the rules often call for ability checks when a creature attempts something other than an attack that has a chance of a meaningful failure. When the outcome of an uncertain and narratively interesting die determines the result. Ability modifier. An ability check is named for the ability modifier it uses. A strength check, an intelligence check, and so on. Different ability checks are called in different situations, depending on which ability is most relevant. See the ability check examples table for examples of each use. Page 11, ability checks. Okay, so ability strength, we have lift, push, pull, break something. Dexterity, move nimbly, quickly, or quietly. Constitution, push your body beyond the normal limits. Intelligence is the reason or remember. Wisdom, notice things in the environment or in creature behavior. Charisma, influence, entertain, or deceive. Proficiency bonus. Add your proficiency bonus to the ability check when the DM determines that the skill or tool proficiency is relevant to the check and you have that proficiency. For example, a rule refers to a strength, acrobatics, or athletics check. You can use your proficiency bonus to check if you have proficiency in the acrobatics or athletics check. See the proficiency later in this chapter for more information about skills and tools proficiencies. Difficulty class. The difficulty class of an ability check represents the task difficulty. The more difficult the task, the higher the DC. The rules provide the DCs for certain checks, but the DM ultimately sets them. The typical difficulty classes table represents the range of possible DCs for ability checks. Typical difficulty classes. Task difficulty, also DC. Very easy is a 5. Easy is a 10. Medium is a 15. Task difficulty, hard is a 20. Very hard is a 25. Nearly impossible is the 30. Saving throws. A saving throw, also called a save, represents an attempt to evade or resist a threat, such as a fiery explosion, a blast or a poisonous gas, or a spell trying to invade your mind. You don't normally choose to make the save. You must make one because your character or monster, if you're the DM, is at risk. A save's result is determined in the effect of that caused it. If you don't want to resist the effect, you can choose to fail a saving throw without rolling. Ability modifier. Saving throws are named for the ability modifiers they use: a Constitution saving throw, a Wisdom saving throw, and so on. Different saving throws are used to resist different kinds of effects, as shown on the saving throw examples table. And so we are moving on to page 12. And it says the saving throws table. You have the strength is your ability, and your save for the physical resistance, direct force. The dexterity is to dodge out of harm's way. The constitution is endurance of a toxic hazard. The intelligence is recognize an illusion as false, as fake. The wisdom is resist a mental assault. The charisma is assert your identity. Proficiency bonus. Add your proficiency bonus to your saving throws if you have proficiency in that kind of save. See proficiency later in the chapter. Difficulty class. The difficulty class for the saving throw is determined by the effects that causes it by the DM. For example, if a spell forces you to make a save, the DC is determined by the caster's spellcasting ability and proficiency bonus. Monster abilities that call for these specifically specify the DC. So we on attack rolls. An attack roll determines whether an attack hits the target. An attack roll hits if the roll equals or exceeds the target's armor class. Attack rolls usually occur in battle, described in combat later in this chapter, but the DM might also ask for an attack roll for other situations, such as archery competitions. Oh, that's very interesting. Ability modifiers. An attack roll abilities table shows which ability modifiers to use for different situations of attack rolls. Attack roll abilities. Ability is strength. Melee attacks with a weapon or an unarmed strike. See rules in glossary. Dexterity is for ranged attack and with weapon. Varies. Spell attacks. The ability used to determine the spellcaster's spellcasting feature is explained in chapter 7. Some features let you see different ability modifiers for these listed. For example, the finesse property, see chapter 6, lets you use strength or dexterity with the weapon that has that property. Proficiency bonuses. You add your proficiency bonus to your attack rolls when you attack using a weapon that you are proficient with, as well as when you are attacked with a spell. See proficiency later in the chapter for more information about weapon proficiencies. Armor class. Okay, a creature's armor class represents how well the creature avoids being wounded in combat. The AC of the creature is determined at the character's creation. See chapter 2, whereas the AC of a monster appears in this stat block. Calculating AC. All creatures start with the same base AC calculation. Base AC equals 10 plus the creature's dexterity modifier. A creature's AC can then be modified by armor, magical items, spells, and more. More. Only one base AC. Some spells and class features give characters a different way to calculate their AC. A character with multiple features that give different ways to calculate AC, must choose which one to use. Only one base calculation can be effective for a creature. Rolling 20 or 1. If you roll a 20 on the D20, called the natural 20, for an attack roll, the attack hits regardless of any modifiers of the target's AC. This is called a critical hit. See combat later in this chapter. If you roll a 1 on the D20, a natural 1, for an attack roll, the attack misses regardless of the modifiers of the target's AC. Disadvantage, advantage. I read that backwards. It actually says advantage/disadvantage. Sometimes the D20 test is modified by advantage or disadvantage. Advantage reflects the possible circumstances resounding a D20 roll, while disadvantage reflects the negative consequences. You usually acquire advantage or disadvantage through the use of special abilities and actions. The DM can also describe that circumstance, grants advantage, or impose disadvantage. Roll the D20. When a roll has either advantage or disadvantage, roll the second D20. When you make the roll, use the higher of the two if you have advantage, and the lower of the two if you have disadvantage. For example, if you have a disadvantage on the roll on an 18 and a 3, use the 3. If you have advantage on the roll, then you would use the 18. They don't stack. If multiple situations affect a roll and they all grant advantage on it, you still roll with 2 D20s. Similarity, if multiple situations impose disadvantage on a roll, you still roll 2 D20s. If circumstances cause a roll to have both advantage and disadvantage, the roll has neither of them, and you roll 1 D20. This is true even if multiple circumstances impose disadvantage and only one grants advantage, or vice versa. In such situation, you have neither advantage or disadvantage. This is good, yes? This is page 13. We are moving on. Interactions with rerolls. When you have advantage or disadvantage and something in the game lets you reroll or replace the D20, you can reroll or replace only one die, not both. You choose which one. For example, if you have heroic inspiration, see the sidebar, and you roll a 3 and an 18 on the ability check that has advantage or disadvantage, you could expend your heroic inspiration and reroll one of these dice, but not both. So this is the box. It says heroic inspiration. Sometimes the DM or a rule gives you a heroic inspiration. If you have heroic inspiration, you can expend it to re-roll your dice immediately after the rolling it, and you must use the new roll only one at a time. You can never have more than one instance of heroic inspiration. If something gives you heroic inspiration and you already have one, you can give it to a player character in your group who lacks it. Gaining heroic inspiration. Your DM can give you heroic inspiration for a variety of reasons. Typically, DMs award it when you do something particularly heroic in character or entertaining. It's a reward for making the game more fun for every playing. Other rules might allow your character to gain heroic inspiration independent of the DM's decision. For example, human characters start each day with a heroic inspiration. How very interesting. Proficiency. Characters and monsters are good at various things. Some are skilled with many weapons, others can use only a few. Some are better at understanding people's motives, and others are better at understanding and unlocking secrets of the multiverse. All characters have proficiency bonuses, which reflects the impact that training has on the creature's capabilities. A character's proficiency bonus increases as the character gains levels described in Chapter 2. A non-character's proficiency bonus is based on its challenge rating. See the rules glossary. The proficiency bonus table shows how the bonuses is determined. This bonus is applied to a D20 test when the creature has proficiency in a skill, in a saving throw, or on the item that the creature uses to make the D20 test. The bonus is also used for spell attacks and for calculating the DC for saving throws of spells. Proficiency bonus starts. Level or CR up to 4 is a +2 bonus. 5 to 8 is a +3 bonus. 9 to 12 is a +4 bonus. 13 to 16 is a +5 bonus. 17 to 20 is a +6. 21 to 24 is a +7. 25 to 28 is a +8. 29 to 30 is a +9. The bonus don't stack. Your proficiency bonus can be added to the dice roll or another number more than once. For example, if the rule allows you to make a charisma, deception, or persuasion check, you add your proficiency bonus if you're proficient in either skill, but you don't add it twice if you're proficient in the both skills. Occasionally, a proficiency bonus might be multiplied or divided, doubled, or halved, for example, before being added. For example, the expertise feature, see the rules in the glossary, doubles the proficiency bonus for certain ability checks. Whenever the bonus is used, it can be multiplied only once and divided only once. Skill proficiencies. Most ability checks involve using a skill, which represents a category of things creatures try to do with an ability check. The descriptions of the actions you take, see actions later in the chapter, specify which skill applies if you have an ability check for that action. And the many other rules note when a skill is relevant. The DM has the ultimate say on whether a skill is relevant in a situation. If the creature is proficient in a skill, the creature applies the proficiency bonus checks involving that skill. Without proficiency to a skill, a creature can still make checks involving... Oh, we're going to the next page, 14. We need to end this though. involving that skill doesn't add its proficiency bonus. For example, if a character tries to climb a cliff, the DM might ask for a strength athletics check. If the character has athletics proficiency, the character adds the proficiency bonus to the strength check. If the character lacks the proficiency, they make the check without adding the proficiency bonus. Skill list. These skills are shown on the skills table, which notes examples uses for each skill proficiency, well as the ability check and the skills most often applies to. Determining skills. A character's starting skill proficiencies are determined in the character's creation and the monster skill proficiencies appears in the stat block. Oh, there's a big chart here. I might read that last. Okay, skills and different abilities. Each skill proficiency is associated with an ability check. For example, the intimidation skill is associated with charisma. That seems like a floater though, because I can see charisma being intimidation being strength. Okay, I'm gonna get off of that. Okay, continue reading. In some situations, the DM might allow you to apply your skill proficiency for different ability check. For example, if your character tries to intimidate someone, though shows a physical strength, the DM might ask for a strength intimidation. See, yeah, that makes sense. Check rather than for checking for charisma intimidation check. That character would make a strength check and add the proficiency bonus if they have the intimidation proficiency. Oh, I like that rule very much. I use that actually. Saving throw proficiencies. Proficiency is in a saving throw. Let the character add their proficiency bonus to saves that uses the particular ability. For example, proficiency in wisdom save lets you add your proficiency bonus to your wisdom saves. Some monsters also have saving throw proficiencies, as noted in their stat blocks. Each class gives proficiencies in at least 2 saving throws, representing that class's training or in evading or resisting certain threats. Wizards, for example, are proficiency in intelligence and the wisdom saves. They train to resist mental assaults. That makes sense. Okay, so we are going to end on chapter 14 at the equipment proficiencies. We're not going to read that. I guess I should go over the skills though. There's a lot of skills. So here we go. Acrobatics is your dexterity. Stay on your feet in a tricky situation or perform an acrobatic stunt. Animal handling wisdom is the calm or train animal or get an animal to behave in a certain way. Arcana intelligence is to recall lore about spells, magic items, and planes of existence. Athletics strength, jump further than normal, stay afloat on a rough water, or breaking something. This deception, charisma, tell a convincing lie or wear a disguise convincing. History, intelligence, call a lore about historical events, people, nations, and cultures. Insight, wisdom, discern a person's mood and intentions. Intimidation, charisma, awe, or threatening someone into doing something you want. Investigation is intelligence. It is to find obscure information and books or deduce how something works. Medicine, wisdom, diagnose an illness or determine what killed recently slain. Nature is intelligence, is recall lore or train plants, animals, and weather. Perception, wisdom, It is using a combination of senses to notice something that that is easy to miss. Performance, charisma. Act, tell a story, perform music, or dance. Persuasion is charisma. Also, it is honesty and graciously convincing someone of something. Religion is intelligence, is historical lore about God's religious rituals and holy symbols. Sleight of hand is dexterity, is picking a pocket, concealing handheld objects, or perform legerdemain. Stealth is dexterity, is escape notice or moving quietly and hidden behind things. Survival is wisdom. It is follow tracks, forage, find a trail, or avoid natural hazards. We'll continue next time. Thank you. Like, subscribe, and I hope you are enjoying this.